atmospheric metal riff. It's got that gothic, dark, melodic feel to it, and it's one of those styles that just takes you to another world, a completely different universe. So I'm excited for you to learn this riff because I think it's going to open up a lot of new creative doors just in your playing and just the way you approach music in general, especially metal, when we mix all this stuff together. Now, this is a 3-part lesson. I'm going to go over the core riff, the metal part of it. Then I'm going to share exactly what I'm doing to get that gothic keyboard sound that you heard. Lastly, I'm also going to share what I'm using to get that sound. There's actually a plugin, something you probably already have, so you don't have to go out and buy anything. I'm going to share my exact settings. Now, before we get into this, if you're part of my Jason Stallworth Guitar Academy, make sure you download your materials. Of course, you have the tabs, the backing tracks. I also provided a file that goes into detail of what I'm using here and how you can dial that in. Again, this is something that you probably already have. And of course, we'll have our usual guitar chat after that. Alright, so just 4 chords. This is the main rhythm part. Now, of course, we're playing a variation of power chords, and you know how much I love the variations of power chords, and it's just changing that second note, maybe adding a third note in this case, and we'll get to that. But the power chord structure, or the progression rather, so we're in the key of B minor, so we're starting out with a B power chord, then we go to an E power chord, then we have our G and our A. So if you just played those chords, that would be your structure. Now, I like to break things down like that because it's like, okay, well now I've got the progression, so it makes it a lot easier to just learn how we play each of those power chords because, again, there are variations. So what I'm doing is I'm starting out with a B power chord down here, and the reason I'm playing it here as opposed to here, because I'm adding a third note to that, a third string even, right? And quite a stretch, which is this. It's much easier for me to do that here than here. I'm not trying to be like Go-Go Gadget where you like stretch everywhere, right? In any case, what was the other stretchy guy? Superhero. I can't remember his name now. Anyway, that's not important. So we are on the E string, A string, and D strings. We're on frets 7, 9, and 11. And that's giving us this chord here. Cool sounding chord, right? So it's just something different other than just the standard B power chord. So what I'm doing here is I'm playing that one time, then kind of junt, I'm palm muting, and I'm pretty much palm muting all those strings. I might not palm mute exactly all 3 of them, maybe the first 2, but for the most part, I don't want you to overthink that part, right? I'm just getting kind of just kind of something to keep it moving. That's the concept I want you to get, okay? So we've got the chord, let it ring out, a 1, 2, then we hit that again before going to the next chord. So that kind of breaks down the cadence, right? Okay, then we go to an E power chord, but we're going to play that a little different as well. We're going to add that third note and third string. So instead of this, we're doing this. And all that is just the E power chord, okay, the open E string, A string, 2nd fret, D string, 4th fret. Same thing as we just did with the B. And by the way, I'll throw the tabs up for all this when we play the whole riff through, okay? Now, we go to the G power chord and A power chord, and we're doing some different things with these. So for the G power chord, I'm doing this. And all I'm doing is I'm approaching that as if I'm just playing like a regular G chord. So those first two notes, okay, E and A strings, frets 3 and 2, again, just like I'm playing a regular G chord, the cowboy chord, you know, the Poison song. We could play Poison right now. I actually do that at my live solo acoustic shows. Actually, I play Every Rose Has Its Thorn, but I also play one of their B-side songs that's in that same key called I Won't Forget You. Cool song. Man, I'm always surprised how many people remember that song. Anyway, back to the lesson. So that's my approach to this variation of the G power chord. I know we're not really playing a power chord, but it's based on the power chord. So we're doing that, but then I'm lifting that first finger off of that second fret of the A string, only to come back down. So that gives us the sound here. Okay, now we're going to move up to what I'm going to play as a variation of the A power chord. Sort of the same thing, but kind of reversing things slightly. You'll see what I mean here. So we move up from the 3rd fret on the E string to the 5th fret, and I'm keeping that same configuration with my fingers, right? So okay, so I can slide up, and here we're on frets 5 and 4. Then we're going to come down on the 5th fret on the A string, so 5-4 to 5-5, back to 5-4. So again. Now we go back through the entire thing the second time around. The only thing that changes is the way we play those last two power chords. They're almost similar, but instead we're kind of like taking that second note of the power chord, the one that we're changing, and we're sort of doing a walk up. So instead of this, we're doing this, and this is pretty cool. So in keeping that root note the same, being the 3rd fret of the E string, the G note, followed by the 5th fret, which is the A note, what we're changing here and what we're doing kind of as a walk-up with that second note of those power chords is we're moving that note on the A string from 2 to 4 to 5, and then 4 to 5 to 7. So as these notes stay constant, that second note, okay, when we're playing those notes together is that gives us so pretty cool. So again, and we'll throw the tabs up, we'll play through this before we move on to the ambient and atmospheric part. I almost can't say atmospheric, it's like kind of a tongue twister. Anyway, so 3 and 2, okay, E and A strings, 3 and 2, followed by 3 and 4, then 3 and 5. What I do here, you see me do a little movement here, I've got my middle finger on that 3rd fret at first, right? But then I switch it to play the regular power chord. So I only do that because it just makes playing that a little bit easier. I don't have a huge stretch, and I really don't care to have a huge stretch. So I play it in a way that makes sense to me. I encourage you to do the same. What makes sense for you? Sometimes we like to make things more difficult than what they need to be, and I don't really think we should always do that. So what makes sense to you, right? That's how I want you to approach this. And the same thing here, right, for the A. Okay, and that's 5-4, 5-5, and then 5-7. Let's throw the tabs up, let's play through this, and then we'll get to the atmospheric part. atmospheric part. All we're doing here is we're just using harmonics, okay? There are 4 notes that we're playing here, and they're the same each time. So I am playing the natural harmonics, where you just kind of hover your finger over that fret. I'm playing those on the B string, 7th fret. Then I go to the G string, 5th fret. Then I move up, same string, G string, 7th fret. Then I go to the B string, 5th fret. So it's going to sound like this. That's pretty much it. And I'm going to share this effect with you. I'm going to share exactly how you can get this on something you probably already have, and it's going to be cool. So as we're playing that B power chord, or the variation of that power chord, what I'm doing is I'm playing this harmonic on the B string, 7th fret. So just envision the B playing right now. Okay, then we move to the E power chord, which I'm going to hit this harmonic, G string, 5th fret. Then as we move to the G power chord, I'm going to stay on the G string and hit the natural harmonic on the 7th fret. Lastly, on that final chord, the A power chord, I'm going to play the natural harmonic on the B string, 5th fret. If you got a tremolo, you can give a little wham action if you want. Now, those aren't like the correct notes or the notes you're supposed to play. I would encourage you to play around with different harmonics. You may say, well, Jason, I'm playing the B power chord. Why don't I play the B harmonic, right? And then the E harmonic. Then try something else. A lot of that would work in this key, and that's kind of what it's all about. If you're playing in certain keys, certain harmonics will sound and work better, but just play around with those always. I say this a lot, trust your ears as you're going through this, because your ears are going to be your best friend. If it doesn't sound right, then okay, well, don't play that. Do something else. If it sounds cool, even though you might not think that was going to sound cool, but it does. Sometimes that happens. Actually, a lot of times that happens. You can get really creative with that, especially with the reverb. Speaking of, let's jump into that. I'm using a plugin that comes with PreSonus Studio One called Room Reverb. And you can see here, you've got several different parameters. Now, what I base this on, of course, you've got like presets. This is not a preset. I need to save this though, so I don't lose it. So I'm going to do that. But what I did is I went to their what's it called? Transiline, I probably pronounced that wrong. Transiline to Heaven. And I started there, and all I did was I just started moving some knobs up to get that atmospheric feel. So real quick, we'll go through this. If you look over to the left of the screen here, we've got the pre, the length, the mix. All I did from that Transiline to Heaven preset is I just cranked up the length. Now over here to the room type, of course, I went to the large hall. You've got some settings over here. The size, I increased that a bit. I didn't touch the width and height on this. Of course, if you're just starting from scratch, you can just mimic these settings here. Then down below, we've got the character. So you've got what's called population and reflexivity. All these big words I can't pronounce. I didn't do anything with those. I did crank up the dampness here. And then we've got right beside that, to the right of that, we've got geometry. I actually didn't change any of this. I just left it on that preset. Of course, the Transiline to Heaven. Lastly, we've got the global setting here with a mix. I just cranked that up. It's about 47% here. So that's it. I mean, you could pause the video and you could just mimic those settings. Now, I say you probably already have this because most every DAW, and I think most of you have some sort of home studio, some capability to record. You probably have a DAW. Check your reverb that comes with your DAW. That's the case here with PreSonus Studio One. I'm not trying to sell you on that. It's just what I've been using since like 2009. I've honestly never really used anything else. else. I think I started out with Reaper when that first came out, and this was when I was first learning all this stuff. Oh my God, what a learning curve! If you can relate to the learning curve on this stuff, raise your hand, because it was one of the hardest things for me to learn. Again, this is way back in 2009. Of course, I would not be doing the right thing if I didn't show you what else I was using here. So real quick, the tone. This is coming from the Black Star dual distortion pedal. I've got it on channel 1, the crunch sound here. You can see the settings there, and I've got that going to an overdrive pedal here. This is the Maxon Extreme 2 OD808X. I've got the distortion all the way down on that, and then I've just got the noise gate here, the Smart Gate by MXR, and that is all running directly into my old PreSonus Quantum 2. I'm about to upgrade that interface soon as well. Before we go, just a couple of songs, or maybe just bands to check out that kind of give you this effect here. I don't want to say they're atmospheric metal bands, but they are along the lines of like symphonic metal bands. You can pretty much listen to anything by Nightwish. I'm a huge Nightwish fan. I love their music. Also a band called Evergrey. I think Tom England, he is just a musical genius. I love his music. Of course, he's got the really gothic sounding keys back there, but they blend in so well with the guitars, and of course his progressions and his playing style, and of course his vocals, everything. So that's a band to check out. I remember when I first discovered Evergrey, I was listening a lot to the Inner Circle album and their album called Torn. And I think there's an album right after that I got into. So I kind of favor those albums more than anything else. But the newer stuff out there that he's done over the years is great as well. But again, it's just some examples of this, I guess, this atmospheric effect that you can play with your guitar. You don't necessarily need a keyboard to get this impact in the music, right? You can also listen, I'll just throw a quick plug in here, you can listen to the song called Never Enough off my album Masterpiece, Peace spelled P-E-A-C-E, all one word, Masterpiece. That was released in 2019. The track Never Enough, when you get to the middle of the song, there's a breakdown where there's a clean guitar, and you'll hear the same effect you just heard. Of course, I was using something different for that. I think I was using the Pod HD 500 for that specific track, for that part, if I'm not mistaken. But in any case, you'll hear that same effect, and I've got that effect in some other songs of mine as well. So I just wanted to share that with you real quick. But yeah, I think this is something that's really cool to play around with, to add to your riffs. If you got like a riff that just, you love the riff, but it's like, it's sort of missing something, and you don't necessarily want to play more notes to add to the riffs. Like, I like the riff just the way it is, but there's just something not quite there. Of course, a lot of times the bass and drums are missing, right? When you're just writing the riff. But try some of this ambient stuff. Even if you don't use the natural harmonics, maybe just use a chord or just one note or something like that. Just try some different things with this ambient style reverb to get that effect. And you'll go down a rabbit hole, and you'll be creating stuff for days. You're gonna fall in love with this, because it's just something that sounds so cool, and it just adds so much to your music. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this is something that you can take with you and work on, and just see where your music can go, see where your riffs can go. It's going to take you to a new dimension. I can almost promise you that. But if you have any questions, of course, drop me a comment. Again, if you're part of the Jason Stallworth Guitar Academy, make sure you grab your downloads for this lesson here. There's some extras in there for you. Guys, until next time, keep it metal and keep playing music.